Acknowledge the reality of who you are and what you're like and what your tendencies are. I thought I had to do everything. I thought I had to do every little part of what I'm doing. And that only set me back more and more and more and more.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I am really, really looking forward to you listening, watching, taking in today's conversation because it's awesome. But really quickly, we're going to get right to the point. We continue to move up the charts together, and I cannot thank you enough. So many of you are leaving your honest written reviews as well as ratings. If you have not done that yet, on the Apple Podcast platform specifically, we've got a nice little video. Would love to know what it is that you like, what you'd like to see change so that we can continue to attract the best guests so that you can get exactly what you need to get closer to your goals much faster. There's a quick video if you want to take a look, but please leave your honest written reviews and ratings. We really appreciate that. For those of you that want to find previous episodes, go to billykeels.com. When you get there, the screen's going to change really quickly. Go to the podcast section and you can download, or you can not download. You can watch every single episode. You can listen to every episode that has ever been released, over 200 episodes, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And then lastly, for those of you who are accredited investors and you are bidding, especially if you've got W-2 and you have been paying lots in taxes, it's really going to be beneficial for us to have a conversation. Why don't you just send an email? Just send it to aiclub@billykeels.com. Would love to have a conversation with you, connect you with some other accredited investors. And if you're tired of overpaying in tax, W-2 income specifically, I really believe it's going to be worth your while. So just go ahead and send an email, aiclub@billykeels.com. We'll find out more about you, and we can get connected. And then lastly, listen, we're got a great conversation. If you've not heard a lot about the short-term rental space, this is a great conversation, how it ties into your lifestyle, how you can do things that maybe you have wanted to do but have been too afraid to do. This is a great conversation we're going to have with Michael Porche, and we'll get to that just after this. Are you looking for a way to get to long-distance investing success but not spending all the effort? You want to do it in a way that's much faster and it doesn't cause as much pain? Well, listen, I can save you all of that stress. Just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes and you can pick up your free PDF to help you on your road to long distance investing success. So, do you want to know how the short-term rental space can be the next phase of your long distance investing success? Then guess what? You're going to want to listen to today's conversation until the very, very, very last word. You know why? Because today's guest not only started his career as a firefighter paramedic, and he did that for like 5 years. And actually, he loved his job. The thing of it was, there was something that was missing. Then, you know what? He began investing in real estate. He actually even became a licensed realtor. He became the VP of a vacation rental management company. And today, he is the lead investor of STR Legacies, LLC. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Michael Porche. Michael, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Billy. I'm really excited to be here and just be able to share with your audience and get to know them.
You know what, man? I am so looking forward to today's conversation and all the things that you've done in our pre-chat. And I know that without a doubt, your experience and the things that you are doing now is going to add loads of value to the Going Long family. But here's the thing, Michael. You're going to get 5 questions, man, like every single guest on the Going Long podcast. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the end, and then you're probably going to get a lot of questions in the middle. The thing is, I just don't know what those questions are yet. So if you're all right with that, man, we can ready to jump in. We start the questions.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. All right, listen, Michael. So very first question is just to help us understand, where actually do you live in the U.S.?
Yeah, I live in Idaho, specifically in Meridian, Idaho, which is a suburb of Boise area. Probably the largest, or Boise is the largest city within Idaho. And to give you a concept, the whole state of Idaho is probably 1.7 million people. So it's a pretty small population size in regards to state. I mean, especially if you're coming from large cities like LA or, New York, San Diego, Chicago. It's little different in size.
Yeah. All right. Well, 1.7 million people is not bad. But yeah, it's the entire state. So appreciate you helping to give us some context there in Meridian, Idaho. And then question number 2 really is about helping us understand what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours, Michael?
Oh, that's a good question. I like that question. The most positive thing that happened to me in the last 24 hours. You know what? I think it would have to be, I had an opportunity to make a really great connection with a guy who is doing a very similar thing that I do in regards to marketing, investing, real estate investing specifically. And this guy is just maybe, 20 years in the future in terms of what that looks like. And he, usually for someone's time like that, you would easily pay like thousands of dollars to sit in from, probably like a $20,000 type of session. Mm-hmm. And so it was a connection from another friend, but we all sat down for coffee. I had no idea what I was getting into. So it was kind of like a surprise. And I thought it was more like, hey, I think you guys are in the similar field. You guys should meet. And later, I know this guy has a huge portfolio. He does essentially what I do in regards to the STR Legacies, mastermind, but just 20 years up front. So he was just dropping knowledge after knowledge after knowledge with me, just like free. And I'm just over here just like, oh my God, I got to write all this stuff down, like a nonstop. And that was really special. And I think it was really special only because of how freely giving of his time and information that he was willing to do that. Because I understand a lot of times when you give information for free or just in general, it's not usually taken with value as much unless you're like giving something of sacrifice. But this guy was saying stuff that is easily going to be making me probably multiple thousands, like in the next 2 weeks even. So yeah. It was just really valuable and really, really cool to see someone else do that. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get those opportunities to be with others that are years along, whether it's 20 years or 2 years or 5 years, that if you give yourself the ability to keep your mind open, it can really make positive impact. So appreciate you sharing that type of interaction with me, with the Going Long family. It also helps to reinforce the fact the matter is you have to continuously be taking action to get yourself in position to be able to have those types of conversations, right?
Absolutely.
Which I think is phenomenal. And so I kind of have to, in the very beginning, Michael, I'm just going to tell you one of the secrets that the entire Going Long family knows already, but I'm just going to let you know because you're our new guest. I give myself this super impossible task, like almost impossible. The task is I'm trying to tell your backstory in 4.5 seconds. That's not possible, man. You've done way too much stuff. You've impacted way too many lives and all that jazz. But here's the thing. The Going Long family, they forgive me conversation after conversation for trying to do something that's impossible. Well, they know I like to keep the standard pretty high. At the same time, I would like to ask you kind of for not only for your forgiveness, but also for your help a little bit. So I'm asking you to tell your own backstory in your own words. And if I could also ask for a favor, that favor would be if you could help us understand what are some of the major decisions that you've also made along this point in your journey. And then after you finish telling your backstory, we'll see where you and I take the conversation before we get to the Going Long Final 3.
Yeah, no, that's a great question and backstory. And then just to get some clarification and some just being really specific, that time limit, were we thinking like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes?
Well, you go ahead and you tell your backstory in your own words. I don't put any limit on you, man.
I like it. I mean, so I was raised in California, just in a suburb outside of Los Angeles. And I come from a single parent home. That was all I knew, per se growing up. But when I was in my adolescence, one of the things I noticed right away is, man, like firefighters are really, really cool. I want to be one of those. Like they're heroes, So I was like, whatever I can do to do that, that's what I want to do. And at the same time, some of the other things I noticed where I picked up on, I will say is just, when I really started noticing the difference of what it was like to being in a single parent home when certain kids would be like, you don't even have a dad, or you live in this kind of neighborhood, or, all these little things that kids like to pick on you about. So I would say I took notice to it. And another thing I took notice to is my mom was never really home because she was constantly providing for us. And that plays a significant role, I would say, in regards to the decisions I've made as an adult. So stay with me. And in the same sense, I've also seen the results of what had happened looking back of my father not being around. The lack of confidence I'd instilled in myself, the lack of confidence I'd instilled also in my sisters, especially, and just knowing that they are, instilling confidence in them, knowing that they're beautiful women and that they are women who are loved. And so growing up, I was like, my mind was not tracked on that, right? It was tracked on, I want to be a fireman. I want to be, if I can say this, a badass. I want to be a hero and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I had the opportunity to achieve that goal when I was around 25. But in between that, there was a moment where I had a come to Jesus moment, and I realized, man, I don't know if firefighting is the end all be all for me, just for the sake of, I had a big ego that was surrounded with that. And I was letting that ego go. But I still saw it as an opportunity to be able to provide for my family, give me enough time to invest with my future wife, my future kids, and go on vacation, do ministry, serve where I can serve, and travel the world. That was my mindset, because the traditional calendar was 10 days that you work and 20 days that you're off. So after getting hired, single fireman, had a great time, just hang out with with the boys in San Diego, a lot of, different things you could be doing all around the city itself. I was traveling all over the place, going to Iceland, Korea, China, Germany, Ethiopia, Amsterdam, like all these different places while I was traveling, being able to, as a single dude. And it was very easy that way. But everything changed when I met my wife. And when I met my wife, I really enjoyed doing that with her and investing time with her. I no longer wanted to hang out with the smelly guys at the firehouse. And then, it wasn't too bad, but until I had my daughter. And when I had my daughter, I always said to myself, since now we're bringing it back, I wanted to have my wife have the opportunity to choose if she wanted to work or not. But most importantly, that she had the opportunity just to be a present mother. And I had an opportunity to be a present father as well. And so, but just even her being on the mother's side, I had to work 20 days out of 30. And that's not like an 8 to 5. That's a 24 hours I'm gone. 20 days that I'm getting very little sleep, to the point where maybe the 10 days that I'm coming home, I have maybe the first day back, I'm sleeping 5 hours, which I'm missing all that time with them. So granted, it was giving me anywhere from 5 to 10 days that were actually with my family. And that was really rough. And so it got to a point where I was like, dude, I need to find another way, because the things which I promised myself I wouldn't do to my family, me being a present father and me missing the first, early years of my first daughter's life, was like, no, that's a non-negotiable. And I saw what it did to families, and I remembered what it did to my own. So that's when I started looking, read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, started really envisioning what real estate could do. And I jumped around from different real estate investments. I started off with buying, 2 assisted living facilities, which is, really just diving into the deep end, learned all about that. Ended up selling those, did a little bit of wholesaling, got my realtor's license. I worked with a lot of multifamily. And then where I landed was in the short-term rental space, which is where I felt I had a lot of fun. But it wasn't until that time we went on vacation in Florida, and we said to ourselves, man, wouldn't it be really cool if we can invest in the areas that we want to go vacation to? And that brought the question, well, not every area, or not every market, or not every property will be able to give that kinds of returns that would be able to supplement our lifestyle. So since then, I've left the fire service about 1.5 years ago, doing full-time real estate investing, and yeah, it's been a crazy journey since then. But now I run a short-term rental coaching mastermind that helps with some of the principles that we teach.
Fantastic, man. So there's a lot of So and we will definitely back into the other things, but ending with the fact that you've not only answered that question, what if you could find the types of investments in the same places that you like to travel, right? I think about you as a single person traveling all around the world, but then also gaining lots of different experiences. As you mentioned before, you were in the assisted living facilities places, you were in the wholesaling, you were able to taste a bit of the multifamily. You got your license, and then you said you had fun. And actually, if you were not watching the video version, you should watch that. Or if you saw what Michael, when he was just talking, like he got this smile on his face when he started talking about short-term rentals, right? Just that area. So, but one of the things that, like, I'm always intrigued, right? Because you had this, you got your dream job, man. Because even as a little kid, you were like, I don't know, but I just want to be like I want to do this as a firefighter. Yeah. And so you attained your dream, which a lot of people never ever get to the dream role that they had. You got there. You told us a little bit about why, but what was it that even attracted you to real estate? And I ask that question all the time because there's so many different types of roles. Whether you get your dream job, you don't get your dream job, somehow there's an attraction to real estate as an asset. And then you go down, the rabbit hole of which one. But what initially just even got you interested in saying, I want to invest some more time and energy over here?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. And I think the reality of that and the acknowledgement of it is it's the end goal that really made real estate, because real estate is just a vehicle. It's a vehicle that allows you to what you're really truly searching for. Because even at the day, short-term rentals is fun, and I have a good time with them, just because of what they offer and what they do, and just the creative side to it. I have a lot of fun with that. But the reality is, what got me into real estate was it was one of the most effective tools and vehicles that will get me to my desired outcome the quickest, which is essentially, yes, firefighting, dream job, a lot of fun. And even to this day, there's certain aspects that I miss. I don't miss being overworked. I don't miss, the sleepless nights. I don't miss all the, say bum calls or calls that are just not good. But there is a brotherhood and there's a camaraderie around that is real and is beautiful, and it's a lot of fun. But I so much more value the end goal, which is essentially being able to invest in the things that will always matter to me, which is my family. Gotcha. I had one mentor of mine who once said in the fire service, hey, if we leave, if we go away, or we die or something hurts to happen, we're going to be replaced, by the city. We're just another number, essentially. And that's the reality of it, because you're just working another job. But to my mom, or to my wife, to my daughters, that is something that will not be replaced. So not like that. So, it's a definite, there's a mind shift in regards to what's important and what am I investing in, what I'm getting true joy from, and being able to do that with my family and real estate being the vehicle. It's amazing. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was, as you started looking at different options, or I don't know if you were actually looking at options, but when you started thinking about being able to set up that ideal life, you being around your wife, being able to have the option to do one thing or the other, this seemed to be one of the assets that would allow you to get the outcome that you were looking for your life, exactly. Which is being able to spend the time in the way that you wanted, be able to provide your wife the same thing. Okay. So then we're down that track. Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid, so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation. All right, there's a bunch of other stuff I want to ask you, but in a very similar situation like me, like today, most people are like, well, hang on a second, Billy, you live in Europe, man, and you're investing exclusively in the United States. This is on a whole different level, right?
Yeah.
I think if everyone was listening, I think I heard you say that you were in Idaho, but you were thinking about or purchasing property in Florida. Just for some perspective on that, from Idaho to Florida, would it be safe to say that's about 4.5 hour flight, something like that?
Yep.
Okay. So you're definitely not in your backyard and you're looking at things that are some short term. So a lot of people think, in a lot of the Going Long family, like this is something that we want to have more exposure to, understanding that it is okay to not invest in your backyard. Like that, not saying that you can't do that, but there are other options, like especially for a lot of the busy professionals. You could take the active road like you've taken, Michael, or you could also take the passive role. But what was it that in your, like you talked a little bit about lifestyle earlier, so maybe that's it. But was there anything beside lifestyle that really made you feel like it's okay to live in Idaho and invest 4-hour flight at a minimum away?
Yeah. I mean, lifestyle wise, well, I will say I definitely have a personality of being risk tolerant, if you will. But even with that being said, if you going back to the end, right, starting with the end in mind and really realizing, okay, what's going to get me there, maybe not in a more efficient manner, or that I am capable with my resources being able to do. And for that, I really wanted to, like, once I started having that, because I want the passive income, but I also want the lifestyle. And so that was, with that end in mind, that was one of the quickest ways of being able to, okay, now we need to know which areas and markets are going to be able to really fulfill both of our wants in that. And more specifically in the investing side, just because, more funds that you have or passive income, you can kind of just go wherever you want. Right. And there was really 3 principles that we searched for in that. And I hope I'm answering your question well with this, but really just figuring out what's going to get you there. And for us, seeing the rental demand, revenue growth, and cash on cash return were the 3 factors that we really wanted to focus on. And the reason why is because rental demand, like if you can just market demand in general, if you have something, you're trying to sell something, if there's a high demand for it, it's going to sell even if it's a terrible product. The demand will always outperform the brand of what you have, just because the market demands it. People are wanting it. They want it. So we look for specific places that have high demand and revenue growth, because we want something that's going to be lasting, right? We don't want something that's going to be high demand just for right now, but for years to come. And the cash and cash return part was a direct correlation of, hey, we want a good cash and cash return. We want to be able to have, high cash flowing properties and appreciating markets. And so, like, for example, some of the people within our coaching mastermind, I have a guy who just picked up a few weeks ago a property for, $46,000, which was less than his car. Now he has expensive cars, but
I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, like, he was saying that to me. I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of cars you got, man. My cars are still cheap. I'm like the 30 max, but like, anyway, but yeah, but he's with that property, he's cash flowing, $2,000 a month. And that's after all expenses are paid. And, when you rack up a few of those, they definitely add up. One of the properties that we look for, like, we always look to get 25% revenue of the purchase price. Or 25% of the purchase price is the revenue. And so, with that, we see there's a large margin of cash flow. Typically, like, that's our, like, the 1% rule. That's our 25% rule, if you will.
Yep. And just so I just want to make sure. So, because this for some people will be like, "What, did I just understand him correctly?" So, in the example, so Michael is talking about an example. He is not giving anybody advice. He's not saying that this all happens all the time. He's saying, as an example, if you were to purchase something that was $100,000, you would anticipate in this example that it would generate $25,000 in revenue. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. And then from there, you back out all the other stuff. But yeah, so just purchase price, you would expect 25% is the revenue that was generated after purchase price. Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yes. And that is according to short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals.
And that's the minimum of what we look for. So, and that's only because, like, we feel the confidence of being able to find those because of the data sources that we utilize, how we analyze properties, the markets that we're aware of. It definitely allows for good returns. which allow us, with the end in mind, it allows us to achieve our dream of what we're looking to search for with the least amount of, per se, effort or resistance in that process. Yeah.
Perfect. So then this helps us understand a bit more of the criteria that you are looking for, some of the geographic locations, some of the things that you think about, like rental growth. You're looking at the cash on cash return, as well as revenue growth, right? These things I think will talk to a lot of, especially really busy professionals. The thing that you mentioned though, because a lot of times people are talking about short-term rentals and this is a space to be and you've got to do this. But if you're a busy professional, like based on what you've seen, like what are some of the questions that someone should be asking themselves as to whether or not this is the right real asset for them to start to place their time, their energy in, so that they can ultimately get to the outcome that they're looking for as well?
No, that's a great question. So we come across this a lot, especially within our mastermind. But so, because essentially, I'll go on different speaking events, and I talk to a myriad of different people. A lot of them are investors, realtors. And like I end up attracting a lot of firefighters, just because that's my background. Yep. But also in the same space, attorneys and doctors, and different spectrums, because these people are the ones like, hey man, I love to invest in real estate. I need to find that time. But there's multiple ways that you can look into it. And if you're looking to do it yourself, there's a lot of time that can be spent in learning the skills, adopting that skills, finding markets, and buying the properties, managing the properties. But what I emphasize, especially within our group and in different areas and people in general, is you need to leverage other people. You need to leverage other people's skills and their knowledge and their resources, because that's the only way that you're going to be effectively achieving your goals in a timely manner. Whoever has the idea of showing, hey, I've built this empire by myself, that's absolute BS. Like there's no way you can. You need to do it with people, and you need to show these other people value. And so like one of the ways so for example, like in our mastermind, we have two different types of products. Essentially is like, hey, we will do it with you, which is like, we will help you, we'll give you all the resources that you need, saves you a lot of time that way too, but we'll also teach you the skills. So that still requires time. Mm-hmm. But some people will, hey, I don't even have time for that. But like, and so we just developed like a new product for that very reason, is like, okay, well, we'll just go do it for you. We'll go and find that property but after an extensive questionnaire, interview, making sure that you're qualified, and expectations are, there's a reality of expectations, if you will, but, and then we'll go and, pretty much do the work for them in order to find that. But what you're missing out on is learning the skills on how to do that yourself too. So there's like a give and take in regards to, what you're looking for. But some busy professionals, it's like, hey, that's fine. I'm good at being specialized in my industry in this area. I will gladly hire or use a professional in this other industry to do that well. Yep. And at the end of the day, that is leveraging your time really well, because, if you're in it for time freedom and getting back that time to invest in what you really want to invest in, which is, things that you love, then yeah.
Yeah. And it is about, and I appreciate you helping us with that, because a lot of times it is, what is the outcome, right? It's the famous Covey that says start with the end in mind, as you mentioned a couple of times. And also, what is it tying to your goal? If you are wanting to do things more actively, then maybe you want to go into a space where you're more active. But if you want it done for you, well, then there's also that option as well. So actually, I have like two questions before we get to the go along final three. But in the first one is, like, so you talked about how you kind of go about the market, but some of the things like systems, because short-term rentals are very different than, like, I have multifamily in my portfolio, right? And it's one time and it's very long. But when I was in my corporate career, I worked in the hospitality industry. So I worked with a lot of really big hotels and the largest hotels in Spain. Help people understand, just like kind of quickly, like what is the difference between when you look at the asset from a long-term rental, like a traditional, you rent and you've got your tenants, versus how you manage a similar type of asset for short-term rental? Yeah.
So, in the difference between, just to understand the question correctly, it's long-term rent like how do you manage a long-term rental versus a short-term rental?
Well, just some of what you would consider maybe some of the advantages, probably a better way to state it, of the short-term rental, and maybe some of the things that could be disadvantages that maybe people are not thinking about when it relates to you having short-term rental as part of your portfolio to get you to the outcome or get you to the destination sooner.
Yeah. So, I mean, right off the bat, with short-term rentals, like some of the pros of it is essentially you're running a business out of a home. And that business is in the hospitality business. And you need to consider it as that. There's different insurances that you're going to want to consider because it's a business. It's not like a landowner, whatever that phrase is.
like a landlord, or is that what you mean? Like
not
insurance. Not owned by landowner. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's the insurance policy that I was referring to, but there's like specific business insurance that you can have for short-term rentals that are specific, like very geared towards that. And so like the pros of it though, because it is a business, like there's definitely money to be made that is a lot more. It can be twice as much, 3 times as much, sometimes 4 or 8 times as much. During certain peak seasons. But you're in the hospitality business, and that is something that you could really do well with. But on the management side of it, that also means you're going to have to run it like, manage it like a business as well. And so and what's really nice, there's, management companies that you can go and hire, that can be able to do that for you. You just want to make sure they're managing it well and that you're also kind of managing them, just because that is, it's good managing your investments that way, but ensuring that you're getting like the best rates, returns, on your investment. Now on a long-term rental, there's a lot less involvement. Management costs a lot less. And, you have maybe less risk to your property or more risk depending on the situation. Because honestly, I'd say short-term rentals are less risk only because there's more people going through. So there's more action of there being like, say, a lawsuit or something happening or of that kind of, situation. But if you're prepped with good insurance, with good asset protection, with good agreements in place, there's ways to mitigate all that risk. And even on the short-term rental side, what's great about good management companies is that they will go in and keep it into a ready for sale condition. Whereas a long-term rent, well, after the long-term is, vacated, the renter is vacated, you have to go in there and get it all nice and fixed up. Whereas because you're in the hospitality business with short-term rentals, you have to keep it at a certain pristine condition all the time.
Yeah. And the way that you broke that down, I think is a great way to really think about it, right? Because at the end of the day, the short-term rental business is a hospitality business. And so it's really about service, and it's about making sure that you are providing, both are service oriented, but this is on a shorter cycle. And at the same time, because it's a different type of business model, you pointed it out earlier. Typically, if you're looking at a longer term rental or your traditional rental, it's, you're going to look at something that's a 1% rule, right? Or maybe 12% if you want to annualize it. In yours is twice that, but it's because the businesses are different. And it's important to understand, because you've already broken it down for us. And number one, Michael, you have lots of experience in different areas. You did wholesaling, you've done multifamily, you're a licensed broker in agent. And so you have this perspective, and then it's about doubling down and figuring out which is the right one for you. Because when you talk about STRs or short-term rentals, your face lights up, you start to smile. And so you want to be able to also help others that are attracted to this space. And then really quickly, before we jump to the Going Long Final Three, because you've mentioned a couple of times, you also, aside from helping, you also have a program where you actually can teach people more about the short-term rental space. Maybe you could talk to us, kind of give us a 30-second kind of understanding as to what that part of your value add is for others.
Yeah, I'd love to. So the coach, it's like a coaching mastermind program. So essentially we call ourselves like STR or short-term rental practitioners, which we're just people that are in the space. And we do operate on that principle of like rental demand, revenue growth, and cash on cash return. And we influence the little or no money down strategies, working as a team in situations like that. But essentially I buy like this data that you can buy. Well, I don't know if anyone can buy it, but like you have to like go in the back end. But utilizing AirDNA, and we bought this like data package that allows us to see some of the top cities that are involved with those three metrics, plus 17 other more.
Okay.
And so in that group, we provide all these resources, that list as well. We provide coaching, direct, also group mentorships, a whole lot of affiliations and, asset tax protection type of things. And we essentially will go in and from start to finish, be able to help you find that first short-term rental that you're looking for in the market, with certain returns, utilizing our resources, lenders, et cetera.
So being able to, in essence, leverage your expertise, leverage your network, exactly. And being able to mastermind with others that are interested in the space and are also action takers.
Exactly. Big emphasis on the action takers.
Yeah, action takers. I mean, if you're the Going Long family, we have a bunch of action takers. And so if you're not willing to take action, then they're probably not here anyway. So, but no, with that said, listen, like I want to keep asking you a bunch of questions, Michael, but the thing is we kind of got to get into the Going Long final three. And the thing is, I never ask anybody, and today you're our special guest. I won't ask you the Going Long final three unless you tell me that you're ready. So my question for you is, Michael, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You were born ready. All right, here we go. So we started with you over in Idaho, Meridian, in the state that has 1.7 million people. I want to bring it back to this side of the pond. Now, we know you're a world traveler, but I would hope that you could share with us, because I live in Europe now and I really want to know, like, and the Going Long family wants to know, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
Ooh, that's a great question. So in two-part, I'm going to say the favorite place I visited in Europe.
Either or your bucket, either that you visited or your bucket list. What's your favorite city?
I'm going to do both. Definitely do both. Well, the place where I visited, I loved, was Amsterdam. That was a wonderful city, very mixed populace, biking everywhere. A lot of good food and just like a melting pot. So a lot of good history and just good people that I've met there. And then places I want to go. So my wife is Greek. She is, or that was her first language. And she lived there growing up till she's about 11. But I've never been there. So I would love the opportunity to go visit and spend some time along with, probably just maybe a place outside of Rome too. I don't know. I love that kind of food.
All right. It's all good. Mediterranean is lovely. I've been here for 20 some odd years, so I'm not going to tell you anything other than that. So no, so we'll appreciate that. Just in case the first one you said is Amsterdam. And so we'll see how it ends up on the show notes. So everybody check the show notes, see what this favorite is, see what the favorite is. So here's question number 2, actually, Michael. The question number 2 has to do a lot with the experience that I've had in being able to interact with a lot of successful people. I consider you someone who's very successful as well because of the things that you've done, the lives you've impacted. And hopefully you'll agree with me. Like one of the things that makes really successful people successful is that when you put a plan together as someone who's successful, you execute the plan, and like the very first time you get it right, and then afterwards you continue to repeat and did I just say that? I think I messed up. No, anyway, no, it's kind of a joke. It's a joke. It's an inside joke between me and the Going Long family. Nobody's perfect. Nobody gets things right the first time. The reality is people that are very successful, they make a lot more mistakes, probably 20, 50 times more mistakes than anybody else.
Yeah.
But the reality is, Michael, they do something very differently. And that's every time there's a mistake that's relevant, they stop, they learn, then they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place so that those same things don't happen again or minimizes the probability. So I don't want you to think about the mistake that you made. I don't want you to think about the learning opportunity, however you call it. I guess what I want you to think about is what's the one lesson? And what is the one lesson that you know that the Going Long family needs to know today to minimize the probability of the exact same mistake happening to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am going to have to say, it's one of the most valuable lessons in regards to, say, something that I didn't do, I failed at was, so I would say I'm not just acknowledging the reality that I'm not a detail guy. So I think one of the most important things is to really acknowledge the reality of who you are and what you're like and what your tendencies are. And so I thought I had to do everything. I thought I had to do every little part of what I'm doing. And that only set me back more and more and more and more. And so the mistake that I do and still do, even to this day, is still have that little bit of a mindset where I'll continue trying to do something when the reality is I need to put that off my shoulders, off my plate, and move it to someone who's really good at it. And the faster you realize that, man, it is, you just snowball so much quicker in a good way into what you're looking to do. So, I mean, I would say it's all about who, not how.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how you do it, but just figure out who's the person that's going to be able to do this really well.
Yeah. Love that. And a lot of that has to do with recognizing who you are, your strengths, et cetera. And when you can get out of your own way. I talk about this very openly. I am a recovering perfectionist. And one of the things when you are a recovering perfectionist, you start to realize that it's about finding the right people and the right people who are excelling at the things where you are not, so that collectively you can move together faster and in more unison. So appreciate you sharing that with us as well. And then the last question, Michael, is really, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
So I always like to say, like, the most, like my favorite book is one thing, but I always try and focus, because I read a lot, on one book a year. Like, what's the one book that I read that year that had a lot of takeaways from? And that would be, I would say, The $100 Million Offer by Alex Hormozi. He is a guy who is like, net worth is around maybe 100 million. That's why the name, hence the name, right? Yeah. But he did it in such a way where it's just putting things in that essentially building an offer that is, you would feel stupid saying no to. Right. And that's the principle of his whole business, essentially, is creating an offer that's so good that no one will say no, but also, charging the value of what it's worth as well. So I had a lot of good takeaways from that book. Read it a couple times, and it's definitely transformed my mindset in regards to practicalities and realities of how people like to do business and how people think. So,
Awesome. So the $100 Million Offer, we're going to include that in the show notes. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I'm just thinking about this guy from California who grew up with a single mom, saw these people going by on the fire trucks and was like, wow, I want to do that. Wow, I want to do that. Wow, I want to do that. And not only did you say you wanted to do it, you actually took steps to actually make that happen. It became your reality. You are one of the very few people on earth who was fortunate enough to attain your dream job. And even when you attained your dream job, you realized that there was something more that was out there. There was something that you wanted to be able to do. You didn't like the 20 days on, 10 days off kind of thing. And not just 20 days, 8 hours a day. It was like really, really long days. You thought about yourself, your future self, your future spouse, your future children, and you being away a long time. And that just was not something that you wanted to do because you did not want to repeat the cycle. That part I'm adding, but I'm just think that that's probably had something to do with it, right? Yeah. When you start thinking about that, one of the things you did though, you started traveling. You realized that this was interesting, and then you found out the travel was interesting. It opened your mind, and you started to really see what was possible. And then you realized, what are the types of assets that you can invest in that are going to help you? And so then you tasted a lot of different things. You tried wholesaling, you got into multifamily, you got into assisted living. You have all these different experiences, but then your face just lit up as soon as you found the short-term rental space. And now that has become the catalyst for what you're doing, how you're building your lifestyle, you're designing your life, and you're also teaching others how to do it. And I know that so many people that are part of the Going Long family, Michael, they're like, Billy, just get to the point. Just ask him how we can get in touch with him. So help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you, what you've got going on at STR Legacies LLC, and just how we can connect with you, man?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can probably find me through strlegacies.com, strlegacies.com. And that's one way, or michaelporche.com. There's different contact me options. So it's probably one of the best ways, and you can contact from there.
All right, perfect. And it's Porche, Porche. So when you're looking up Michael Porche, that's who you want to look up. And once again, you can go to strlegacies.com. Okay. And listen, Michael, I just want to say very much from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you so much for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate being on the show.
All right, thank you so much. And Michael, if you give me like just 10, 15 seconds just to say a couple of last words to the Going Long family, and then I'll let you out of here. So Going Long family, look, you just got a masterclass in short-term rentals. You found out about how you can ask the right questions of yourself to see how this asset can help you get to your goals, get to the outcomes that you're looking for in your life much faster. And I know Michael's here to be able to answer any questions for you. So do me a favor though, take today's episode, share it with somebody. You know somebody needs to hear about this. Talk about it. Talk about the different concepts that Michael was talking about and put that theory into practice. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be here waiting for you for the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.